Evolution is a fundamental mechanic of the Pokemon series and a core part of the game's progression. But there are some Pokemon you encounter throughout the games that just don't evolve at all. They have a single stage, no baby form and no evolved form. Most legendaries and mythicals don't evolve either, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about Pokemon like Shuckle that just exist as they are. Some of these Pokemon are pretty powerful and have received a good amount of attention over the years. Shuckle, as an example, has been pretty relevant ever since receiving Sticky Web in Gen 6, which was a big buff. Skarmory is a single-stage Pokemon that has always been great. Torkoal received Drought in Gen 7, giving it some real value on competitive Sun teams. And Alomomola is having a real renaissance in Gen 9, where it's become a popular choice in competitive too. Even Pokemon like Farfetch'd and Tauros have at least received new regional forms in recent games. But some of these single-stage Pokemon have seemingly been completely forgotten, released generations ago with barely anything new, no new options, forms, or any attention whatsoever. Many of these forgotten Pokemon could be real contenders to receive new evolutions, but for whatever reason, they have been neglected. Maybe it's because they're unpopular, or they can't think of anything to do with them, or perhaps they're saving such content for Generation 10. Whatever the reason, let's shine some spotlight on Pokemon's forgotten single-stage evolutions. One of the most tragic examples of a neglected Pokemon is probably Tropius. This is visually one of the coolest Pokemon in the series in my opinion. Love the design. It's got wings that are like big leaves. It's a tree dragon creature. It's got bananas on it. And everyone, when they first played a Gen 3 game and they saw this thing, they thought the world of it. They thought this must be a powerful endgame fellow, only to catch it and realize it's complete garbage. Its stats are terrible. It has little in the way of good options. There's a real disconnect between how this looks and how it plays. It looks like an endgame creature, and yet its stats are that of a little Route 1 normal type or something. It's really quite tragic. It has Sunny Day Chlorophyll combo, but there are so many better Chlorophyll Pokemon. Even in its debut game, it's getting outclassed by Exeggutor Shiftry. I think even Bellossom is more worthwhile on a Gen 3 Sun team than Tropius. I don't think Tropius has ever been a desirable choice on a Sun team, so Chlorophyll feels like a waste on this. At least it did receive the ability Harvest in Generation 5, which was a better fit. Harvest allows you to recover berries. At the end of every turn, you have a 50% chance to restore a berry that you've used, and it's 100% in the Sun. So Tropius can use this to its advantage with Leech Seed and Substitute to have a passive heal that keeps regenerating, and an annoying set that's a bit difficult to take out. This is a great choice in random battles, but in actual competitive formats, this is also not the best. There are even better Harvest users than Tropius, such as Trevenant and Exeggutor. The Tropius really feels like it's gotten the short end of the stick, and it feels neglected. It got one small buff long ago back in Gen 5, maybe little moveset additions that haven't made much of an impact. I think that Tropius deserves something. If they're bringing back Megas, Mega Tropius is an easy slam dunk. Everybody would love it. It's so much design potential. This is such a cool base of a Pokemon. You could do many things with this. The imagination runs wild if you think of Mega Tropius. It's easy. They could easily do something good with this. An evolved Tropius, an alternate form of Tropius, perhaps with an evolution on top. There is a lot they could do with this. Bring it back to the forefront. Do something with Tropius, please, in Generation 10. The fans want it. They've wanted it for a long time, and I personally would love it. Up next is Miltank, yet another neglected single-stage Pokemon, never received an evolution, alternate form, or much of anything over the years. And this guy came out all the way back in Generation 2. Maybe they haven't given this anything because they can't think of a new idea. I mean, what would Mega Miltank look like? What would evolved Miltank look like? Perhaps Miltank is a product of its time that they can't quite build upon in a meaningful way, but it still feels a bit sad to see Miltank so neglected. It is a bit outclassed by other normal types as well. Back in Gen 2, it was a decent choice with its access to Milk Drink, its high speed compared to Pokemon like Blissey and Snorlax that it's competing with at the time, and, you know, pretty good physical move pool options like Heal Bell. In Gen 2 and 3, this is a decent Pokemon that's competitive with other normal types to some extent, but over the years, there's been less and less reason to ever use Miltank. Thick Fat as an ability is good, but not good enough to really consider using this guy. It's got Scrappy in Generation 4, good ability, but that wasn't quite enough. And then it received Sap Sipper, granting grass immunity. That's something, I guess, but it's a slightly boring new addition that did not have a very high impact on Miltank. And it must be said that Miltank has been left out in the fields to grow old, and you could say that they don't have a cow about Miltank's future. They don't care for Miltank. I think that's a little bit upsetting, but at the same time, I sort of get it. Like, what are you supposed to do with Miltank? It's weird cow that stands up. What's the idea? I can't really think of a Mega Miltank. You compare it to Tropius, you can easily imagine a Tropius evolution or a Mega. A Miltank, you could do something, but would it sell copies? Would it sell copies of Gen 10? I don't know if Mega Miltank would be necessarily a fan favorite or anything. We'll see if they bring back Miltank in any capacity in Gen 10. Maybe they could do something interesting with Miltank that I haven't imagined yet. We'll have to see. Up next are Solrock and Lunatone, a fun duo of Pokemon from back in Gen 3. I love these Pokemon. I think they're fantastic designs, counterparts to one another. And I also think they have been very much neglected, even more so than some of the ones I've talked about already, because these guys didn't even get a new ability in Gen 5 like many Pokemon got, or at any point over the years. They still just have Levitate. These are simple rock psychic type Pokemon, both extremely similar, but Solrock is more physically leaning, Lunatone more special leaning. They have pretty poor stats, interesting move pools. Both of these guys are actually decent in the debut game of Gen 3, where Levitate is a great ability, and Solrock with access to Explosion, Stab Rock Slide, and even random high power coverage like Overheat, can actually function alright on a physical offense strategy, with an aggressive game plan. Lunatone, on the other hand, is actually a Salamence check, because it resists flying and is immune to Earthquake. That's all of Salamance's coverage. How fun is that? And it's got Ice Beam, it can Carmine Baton Pass to teammates. It's pretty interesting. I like these Pokemon in Gen 3, but in later games, I don't think that they're very good ever. The perfect opportunity to make something of these Pokemon was probably Pokemon Sun and Moon. I mean, these are the Sun and Moon Pokemon. You could have had a Alolan Solrock and a Alolan Lunatone, or maybe even, oh, I don't know, an evolution for them that makes them more powerful, perhaps. These are cool Pokemon that could easily have some design space for some cool stuff. I could imagine an evolution for these guys being fun. And I hope that they get something in Gen 10. I hope they get something. Another neglected Pokemon is Kecleon. This is one I've always loved. Even though it's never been great in any context, I think it's a fantastic design. It is a chameleon Pokemon with the ability Color Change in its debut game, which changes Kecleon into the type of the move that it just got hit by. It's a pretty awesome ability design with some interesting application. In the Gen 3 1v1 format, Kecleon has a niche role because it can 1v1 certain enemies quite effectively. Transforming into a type of a move you just hit usually means you resist it. Most types resist themselves, so that has cool applications there. Outside of that though, Kecleon has never been fantastic. Kecleon did at least receive a pretty cool new buff that was very fitting for it, in the form of the new ability Protean in Gen 6, which is shared with Greninja. This ability is similar to Color Change, but much better. You transform into the type of the move that you yourself use. There's more direct application for this, it's more flexible, and it basically allows you to have stab damage on anything that you use, which is a blanket damage buff. Greninja is fantastic with this ability, and so is Kecleon, at least it's more powerful than it was before. Still not great though. With its stats lagging behind in modern times, this is a pretty unimpressive fellow, and especially in Gen 9 with Protean nerfed, Kecleon would probably be right down in the low tiers where it's always been once again, if it was even in Gen 9, if they even give it the respect of putting it in the game. They're trying to erase Kecleon from the history books. Now in Gen 10, you could imagine a Kecleon evolution being pretty cool, and I would like to see a new take on a Protean Pokemon. It's proven to be a good ability even still on such fellows as Meowscarada, Cinderace, and Greninja from time to time. And you can imagine a bulky normal type with this ability being a new take on that archetype. Everything with this ability so far that's good is a fast offensive threat. What about a slow, bulky Pokemon with Protean? You give this an evolution and that could be a pretty interesting new presence in the game that we haven't really seen yet. I would like to see such a thing. I think it could be cool. Especially because this has Shadow Sneak, which is a great option, allowing it to have some priority, change its type with priority, which is great. You get fighting immunity. Something like this could have a lot of really cool and dynamic ways to use it in battle. It'd be very fun. Up next, Zangoose. Another very cool one. Love the visual design. It's a mongoose, but it's epic. Epic version of mongoose. We love that. Zangoose is a fairly simple Pokemon. It's just a mono-normal type single stage fellow. It's got decent attack and speed, and it can function well enough in a playthrough. In Gen 3 it has the ability Immunity. In Gen 5 they gave it Toxic Boost, which is more fitting and more powerful, granting an attack boost if you are poisoned. So you can give this a toxic orb, and it's a natural synergy with Facade. And apart from that though, Zangoose is a pretty plain Pokemon. It's a normal type physical attacker, and an average one at that. There are other Pokemon with Guts, which is a superior ability, or it's about the same, that function better. Zangoose definitely feels like it is left behind and outclassed by about a million other things available. And a simple mono-normal type just doesn't cut it anymore. This is a perfect candidate for a new evolution. I would love to see it. They could give it a new dual type, increase its stats, and then you've got a functional Pokemon on your hands. Pretty simply, that would do it. That would be it. Plenty of potential for a cool visual design from that as well. I think this would be a logical and great candidate for a new evolution, and that would be more fitting to me than a Mega Form or anything else. Just give Zangoose a new evolution. It's long overdue. It's gotten nothing for years except Toxic Boost, maybe buffed knockoff, some other stuff, but nothing substantial. Give Zangoose an ascended form. Allow him to reach his full potential, and we will all be the happier for it. And up next is a similar case. Seviper is a rival to Zangoose, available in the other version of Gen 3. And these two are in a similar boat for many reasons. Seviper is a single-stage Pokemon that has not received much attention since its release. And also it's kind of derivative of other Pokemon. Much like Zangoose feels outclassed by other mono-normal physical attackers, Seviper is extremely similar to Arbok as a snake-themed Pokemon that's mono-poison with shed skin. It doesn't set itself apart that much. Its stats are average. It's even less interesting than Zangoose, honestly. Zangoose is okay in some lower tiers. It was alright in Gen 3, kind of. Seviper's never been great, and it's unfortunate. I like its visual design. Nothing else about it is that interesting though, to be honest. It has a pretty wide move pool, that's cool. But I think this is another candidate for a new evolution that would be an opportunity to give Seviper something to stand out from other poison types. It does have Infiltrator, which is good. That's a new ability it received in Gen 5, and it was I suppose, an improvement over Shed Skin, which is not that valuable on a Pokemon without much bulk to show for it. Infiltrator allows you to hit through substitutes. And Seviper's defining trait, I suppose, is its good mixed attacking stats, although good is a stretch. But an evolved Seviper could be a mixed threat with Infiltrator, which sounds interesting. Maybe a Poison Dark type with such traits would be cool. We haven't seen such a thing before, actually. A Poison Dark type, mixed threat with Infiltrator, sounds like it could have a unique role in the world. That's a great type combination that would fit, I think, with Pokemon. Yet another Pokemon that would be a perfect choice for a new evolution, in my opinion. Up next is Spinda, and this is an absolute tragedy of a Pokemon. Horrendous when it first debuted in Generation 3, and horrendous even still to this day. It's important though to note that not every Pokemon is supposed to be good and powerful and competitive. Some are just supposed to be there for flavor or, you know, filler. They're just part of the journey that may be available in the mid-game or early game, and they don't amount to much. And they're not supposed to. The powerful Pokemon are available usually in the late game. But it's still a bit of a shame to see Spinda so average for so many years. This is a mono-normal type with 60 base stats across the board, just absolutely horrendous. And it has a move pool themed around spinning, I suppose. It's got Dizzy Punch to inflict confusion. Not a very good attack. Not at all. It's got options like Trick Room with a theming around trickery and confusion and spinning around, which is flavorful. It's got an animation where he looks very dizzy. And it's a beloved Pokemon design. A lot of people are big fans of Spinda. It's cute, it's iconic. It has the unique trait of, you know, it can have different patterns that are random. That's fun. We like that. And they did give Spinda the ability Contrary in Generation 5, which is a great ability. Inverting stat stage changes, so you can use Superpower on Spinda, and instead of nerfing your attack and defense, it will raise your attack and defense. That's pretty good, but obviously not good enough on a Pokemon with such terrible stats. The question is, should Spinda receive a new evolution? I mean, it's kind of supposed to be a joke Pokemon. It's not really supposed to be good. At the same time, I think a Spinda evolution could be cool. Maybe it would be annoying though. It would probably be themed around confusion as a mechanic in some way, which maybe we don't want that. Maybe that would actually be a bad thing to exist. For all we know, Spinda being contained as a weakling is better for this timeline. And if Spinda was made more powerful, we might regret that. It's a Pandora's box we don't want to open. So I suppose, upon reflection, maybe Spinda should stay bad forever. Let's keep Spinda neglected. Let's not give Spinda anything. Keep this Pokemon in a confused daze where it cannot hurt us. And then maybe we will have a fruitful future ahead of us, won't we? And if Spinda is a tragedy, then what is Luvdisc? A dark comedy? Perhaps. Luvdisc debuted in Gen 3, where it was immediately horrendous. A pathetic Pokemon in every regard. It's a special attacker with a measly 40 special attack. It has Swift Swim, but where is it going at such a pace? Nowhere. It can be double speed in the rain, but for what? Where are you going, Luvdisc? Nowhere of note. Luvdisc is, of course, absolutely horrible in every regard, and they have given it nothing ever. They gave it the ability hydration. What help is that? What's Luvdisc going to do with that? It's hydrated enough as it is. Now, many people have made the astute observation that Luvdisc closely resembles the Pokemon Alomomola, and maybe in fact at some point in development, Alomomola was going to be an evolution for Luvdisc, and that would make logical sense that there's a clear through line there. But that's not the case. So it makes it a bit difficult to actually design a evolution for Luvdisc that doesn't resemble Alomomola, because what are you supposed to do with it? An evolution for Luvdisc might be difficult. Maybe it would, the love heart turns the other way around. Maybe it has a hate-filled evolution that's a sort of a reversal on expectations. Hate Cube could be the new one, and that would be a real subversion for all Pokemon fans everywhere. I would love it. I think that they need to be bold in the next game. They need to be bold and do things differently. So Hate Cube could be what gets Gen 10 off the shelves, and I would buy a copy just to see it in action. Mega Luvdisc, I'm not sure that has any legs to stand on. I don't think Mega Luvdisc is happening ever. I don't know if Luvdisc fans even exist. Are there fans of this? It's a little fish that looks vaguely like a love heart. Are there supporters of Luvdisc? I don't think I've seen any. If you're a Luvdisc supporter, please let me know. And make yourself apparent to the wider community, because we've never seen you before. We need to know that you're out there. Maractus. I'll be honest, I've forgotten about this one too until now. Maractus exists. They made it in Gen 5. It's a single-stage grass-type Pokemon with some extraordinarily average stats. There are so many grass types that do a better job. It's got all the standard grass-type stuff. It's got spikes because it's a cactus. But, it's got Leech Seed, Giga Drain, whatever. It's got the ability Water Absorb. I can't help but feel as if Cacturne is just a better option. It's grass dark. It has similar traits, very similar traits. This, what is it even supposed to be? It's slow, it has no defenses, and it has a high special attack. This feels like a Pokemon that isn't finished, and I suppose a good candidate for an evolution, because maybe it becomes something actualized if they grant it a bit more power. Maybe it could have rough skin for contact damage, because it is a cactus with spikes on it, and it could be a utility hazard setting Pokemon similar to Ferrothorn, although you can't help but think that Ferrothorn fills that space. So what does Maractus do to set it apart? Well, it has a high special attack. Maybe that could be its thing. They could give it grass water typing. Maybe it's like Ludicolo come again, but with a more utility defensive role than what Ludicolo has. I like the visual design, the cactus flowers sprouting atop the head that resembles hair. It's creative. It's a likable character, but it shares a lot of design space with other grass types. It doesn't quite stand out, and it hasn't received much love over the years, with little in the way of new options or new content to support it. So decent candidate for a new evolution, I would say. It could use a stat increase for sure. This is an underpowered Pokemon all around, with little to offer over its counterparts, really. So would love to see a Maractus evolution, actually. Give Maractus some attention. As I'm sitting here talking about Maractus, I can't help but grow a bit more fond of it. It's capturing my imagination. Maractus has captured me, and maybe it'll capture you too. They need to help this Pokemon who has been unfairly neglected for too long. And this is another one I forgot about. Carnivine. Does anybody remember this? A Gen 4 single stage Pokemon, another grass type. This is one of those Pokemon I always forget exist because it doesn't really look like a Pokemon to me. Maybe it's big, goofy eyes, something about it. Looks like it shouldn't be in this franchise. It looks like it doesn't fit. But they want to sweep this under the rug or something because it's not even in the new games. They've given it nothing. It has the ability Levitate. I suppose that's unique for a grass type. And it's, it's a physical attacker, I guess, with a base 100 attack. The stats are incredibly average. This was set up to fail. They really didn't give it much. What can be said? It's got sleep powder, that's good. It does have ground immunity, but you cannot build a house on these things. We need more from Carnivine, and he's not providing it. I don't even know if I want to see an evolution for Carnivine. What would it look like? It's a carnivorous Venus flytrap sort of creature that looks a little bit freaky. I don't think I like the look of this fellow, and I don't want to see him. They gotta change his eyes. His eyes don't look right. They don't look like Pokemon eyes. They look like they put a googly eyes on a Venus flytrap. Why does this look like a fake Pokemon designed by a ROM hack? It doesn't look real to me. It doesn't look real, and I think I have to move on. Mega Carnivine, if they make it, about 3 people on Earth will be pleased. About 3 people on the planet will say, yes, finally, Mega Carnivine. There's Megas people scream for, like Mega Flygon. Everybody wants Mega Flygon. No, I don't think one person has ever wanted Mega Carnivine. Find me the person who wants that. Carnivine 2? I'm doubtful it will build off the original. Carnivine Evolution, an average grass type with little to offer, but it has a bit more stats. What do they give it? Not Levitate? It comes down to earth? It'll probably have like Effect Spore or something boring. I can't imagine them making this interesting. I can't picture it. And we are moving on. We have to move on. And finally, we're going to end this on another one that I quite like. Druddigon, a mono dragon type from Gen 5. This is just a regular old dragon. It's an incredibly generic looking dragon, but something about it captures me. I like Druddigon. I don't know why. Maybe his simplicity. Maybe it feels a bit different to other dragons. It's slow. Does it even get Dragon Dance? It does not get Dragon Dance, folks. So it has Glare to apply paralysis. It's got Stealth Rock, Dragon Tail. And it's used in this role in lower tiers as like a weird shuffler, mono dragon utility guy. Something about that is kind of fun to me, but it's certainly an average Pokemon in the very strongest sense, with pretty regular stats and a poor speed stat. Has a high attack, but that's not doing it that many favors. Definitely devastated by the addition of fairies in Gen 6, and they haven't given it much over the years. I don't know if they want to. Maybe this is designed to be like a middling dragon type. There's many dragon types that already exist that fill Druddigon's shoes. I don't know. I like mono dragon as a typing. You don't see it that often. Like Haxorus is cool too. And I like the idea of a mono dragon that's just sort of a bulky utility guy that can hit hard if he wants to. I wouldn't mind seeing an evolution for this that does the same thing but a little bit better. And maybe we could use this in an actual competitive context. It's got Rough Skin. It's actually got a cool selection of abilities. Rough Skin, Sheer Force, and Mold Breaker. Mold Breaker Stealth Rock has its value. Can hit through Magic Bounce. Glare will be able to hit Goldengo. That's fun. I'll start a petition to get us a Druddigon evolution in the next game first. I'll make it happen. I have connections at Game Freak. I'll speak with them and I'll put in a request for Druddigon 2. And we will see it guaranteed. I guarantee you there will be a Druddigon evolved form in Generation 10. You have my word. And that does it for part 1 of this showcase of forgotten single stage Pokemon. And I've split this up into 2 parts because there's actually a lot of examples of this. And there's more to talk about, folks. So stay tuned for part 2. And what did you think of the Pokemon covered here? Who's your favorite? And who do you most want to see some sort of new content for? I would love to see a Tropius evolution or Mega or something. I want to see Tropius receive some attention. But what about you? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching.